So I think a lot of people really want to make a difference. They want to support in some way. And I know, at least for myself, I'm like really excited, energized. Like I want to be part of the solution. I don't want to be part of the problem anymore. I want to be part of the solution. But for me, I know that I guess the thing that stops me, or at least gets me to pause in my efforts, is like the fear that I'm going to step on a landmine. Like I want to be part of the solution, but what if I say something? What if I post something? What if I share something that's just so clearly ignorant to the other side or to my own community? I'm afraid of burning bridges. I'm afraid of like getting like my foot stuck in my mouth.
Sure. Yeah. And really to speak to that, the whole thing, you said landmines, which is really key, because the whole thing about that, it's there, it's hidden,
right,
and it does damage to you, and the person that put it there is long gone.
Uh-huh.
I think that that's really the difficulty of what we're facing. There are landmines about this thing everywhere. And there's a fear. If I'm going to walk across this field, what is it going to cost me? Because if I step out and I decide to take this journey or to contribute in some way, the people that need this kind of support, they're really long gone. But that's really the price of it. That's what it's going to cost.
Are there, I know, because talking to all my non-Black friends, I think that there's kind of an echoing of this sentiment of fear of like, what if my voice isn't heard? What if I get labeled in this way or the other? Are there certain landmines that you're afraid of hitting, or that the Black community in general is afraid of?
I think so. And I think what you're seeing right now, particularly with large protests around the world, is that fear can exhaust you to the point that your response changes.
I've heard this a lot. I'm tired. I'm exhausted.
I'm tired.
Yeah.
No, really. Yeah, I'm tired. And I think non-African Americans or people that are indifferent or people that are racist are tired. But if we allow it, this fear is going to keep us all where we are. There's so many things that are happening. There's so many issues that are conflated and intersecting, and it's so difficult. And I know a lot of people, there are different types of fears that are experiencing, like, well, what if I lose my job if I speak out about this? What about my cultural context? What if people cancel culture? What if everybody shuts down on me simply because I disagree with them? That happens. There are things I don't speak up about. I don't know a lot about sports. And when I'm with a bunch of guys, you better believe I'm taking out oh man, did you see what they did? Because I don't want people to think I'm not like into sports. And so all of that exists. But the level of conversations about racism are exponentially more costly because it's such an infuriating conversation, and there are so many ways to look at it. But when it comes down to it, if we decide whether we're racist or bigoted or prejudiced or indifferent or Black or white, fundamentally, if we allow those fears or whatever those fears are to do this, they'll keep us where we are. And that's really what we're talking about. How do we move past it?
Yeah.
Of course, I enjoy hanging out with my African-American family and friends. We're drawn to our different cultural contexts. The question is not about whether or not we're going to be diverse and always together and holding hands and washing cars and cutting grass together. That's not what we're looking at. We're saying if anybody is losing, I don't want to see them lose. If this is costing you living, surviving, it's costing you more than it's costing me, I want to do something about it. My daughter is the apple of my eye. She's amazing to me. Okay,
You were just FaceTiming her earlier this morning before the shoot.
She just brilliant. If the sun never came up, I'd have brightness in my life because of her. Okay, and I remember once we had experienced something with one of the horses she was working with, and nobody wanted to deal with him because he was running away, he was bucking, he was kicking, and I had to try to chase him down. One, because I didn't want to pay for somebody else's horse. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to pay for this horse if he gets away, gets hit by a truck, whatever. And I was afraid, but she said, everybody else was afraid. Everybody kind of got out of Dodge. She said, Daddy, why are you never afraid? At first I was like, because I'm a man. Yeah, this is because that's what men do, baby. That's what it's like. Don't you ever be afraid, but I decided to be very honest. I said, Riley, I was terrified. I was absolutely afraid. I said, Riley, I'm always afraid. I'm afraid, for a lot of different reasons. I'm afraid to lose you. I'm afraid that things may not always work out with my job. I live in fear. But I decide that I can live in fear and do nothing, or I can live in fear and do something. And man, she said something to me that I want to share with you. She said, after we walked for a little bit and she was quiet, she said, "Daddy, I want to be afraid." I said, "What do you mean? I thought you said you were afraid." She says, "Well, I want to be afraid and I want to do something about it." And I think that that's really the key here. Our fear can keep us where we are. It can keep us all in our corners, and we can keep being tired. Unfortunately, for the Black community, that fear wears us out because not only are we afraid of loss and showing up and not being adequate by someone else's standard, or the fear of losing our lives at a routine traffic stop, or the fear that if my child takes a difficult path and they're going to be prosecuted differently than if they're not Black. All of these fears are added to our fear of not doing something. I think that has worn the Black community out. And to say I'm tired, it doesn't say I'm tired because of this protest.
It's not because we walked 5 or 6 miles.
No, it's not because I walked in the sun 5 or 6 miles or I walked in the rain. I'm tired of just walking in my skin. That's what's wearing me out. And what I say to them and what I say to people who are not in the African American community, what I say to a racist who says, "Look, I hate Black people. I'm sick of them." Or what I say to the bigot who doesn't mean anyone harm. They just think they're better than everybody else. Or what I say to the prejudiced person, as long as we keep living in that fear, because we all have fear, we're going to be stuck there. And if we want to stop being tired of it all and sick of it all, we're going to have to do something. I've got some pretty good solutions. And one of those includes, and I'm not saying that this is the only solution. One of those is that you've got to decide you are a voice, you're important, and you're going to do at least something. It doesn't have to be everything, but you're going to do something.
I'm curious to know, like, you talk about being tired, exhausted. What have other people, non-Black but allies of the Black community, what has happened in your life that has given you energy, that has helped you feel like, man, like I got hope again because we're now working together?
Sure, it's. For me, I engage in social justice issues. You probably in the last 2 years or so, 2 or 3 years, I have not held a sign. Okay, I have not been on a march, and I want to say that because people think, well, every Black person is out there marching, and that's not the case. I serve in different ways. I have conversations that are often not recorded with city leaders. I've talked with state leaders behind closed doors. I've talked with racists and people that fight racism. I've talked with bigots and people that probably have the lowest level of prejudices in the world. And I do that because I want to bridge those conversations. What gives me energy beyond wanting my daughter to live in a better world, okay? And not just my daughter. If you and your wife have children, I want your children to have a better world. I don't want white kids to live in a world where racism exists, as much as I don't want Black children to live in that kind of world. And so that gives me energy, but that's an aspirational energy. That's an energy that drives me because I hope we get there. But the energy that gives me, that comes to me right now is when one person says, "I hear what you're saying." When I feel that they see me, when I feel that they see my pain and they see my experience and they're not me, they're not Black, they're white, or they're in another cultural group, but they don't experience the Black experience, that helps me. That gets me over the line. So if I go too long without experiencing that, I'm like, man, this is just really not getting anywhere. But that makes the difference. And every single person can do that. I know people, Justin, that have never protested. They've never held the sign. But you know what they did? They were willing to have difficult conversations. They were willing to step over the line and ask if there was anything they could do. I have a friend who refuses to protest. They think protests are wrong. They for Christians, that is. I don't think Christians should be out there protesting. But are you doing okay? Everything all right? You feeling good? What can I do? Can I bring over a meal for you and the family? That's a huge difference. They might not have protested with a sign, but they gave their heart. They lent their energy. That's where we want to be. That's how you move from fear, because we all have it. White people and Black people are afraid. Different reasons, looks differently, but it's fear, isn't it? And so here, I think that the bigger question is, what am I going to do about it? And the biggest thing that you can do is something. Anything, as long as it's not nothing.
Next time on I'm Listening, Do you think Jesus, as you understand him, would support Black Lives Matter?
Absolutely. No shadow of a doubt in my mind. Jesus, this is core to who Jesus is.